Hey guys, what is up? All right, it's been ages since I recorded a video. I can't even remember the last time, at least 2 months, maybe even 3. But this time, actually, it's not my fault. The reason I haven't recorded a video in ages is because a couple months ago I logged in to record some games, and actually the game that I'm about to record here was played back on the 8th of November, so that gives you a sense of how long ago that was. That's over 2 months ago, and miraculously the replay is still here. A bunch of other ones that were quite good became irretrievable for some reason or other. I think that there's just a timestamp on the replays, and once they reach a certain expiration date, they're no longer accessible, which is kind of dumb because they probably occupy almost no data on your hard drive, but whatever, I'm not going to worry about it. Anyway, this one's still around. But when I tried to record it and other ones afterward, I was met with a bug that made it completely impossible to record. Every time I would try to record, this little message would pop up. I don't remember what it would say, but it would spam the message every time you clicked any type of action to try to advance the replay forward. It would just spam you with the message again, and, well, pretty much you couldn't use the replay at all. So after trying numerous times to get it to work, complaining to the company numerous times, I just gave up in frustration and kind of resigned myself to either not recording replays anymore or trying to find another way of doing it, perhaps doing a live stream of Twitch TV and going back and editing it. But miraculously, they've sorted out that bug. I can't believe they actually did an update to their client, and it appears to work again. So for your viewing pleasure, I have a game played back in November against Mr. Mad Hatter 278, and I am playing 1v1 Commander format, which is still, I don't know what that's about. Miraculously, the 1v1 Commander format is still alive online, although I've been talking to Brian Hawley, who's the current curator at Wizards of the Coast, about it. I actually went down some months ago and had a sit down with him, which is why the format actually dramatically changed, and they pretty much got rid of the entire banned list and reverted it back to almost exactly the same as the multiplayer Commander banned list, with some dumb inclusions like Moat and Humility and Winter Orb and various other cards that Brian Hawley personally doesn't like. But I suspect that in the near future, and he's hinted at this, that the 1v1 Commander format is going to go by the wayside and be relegated to the grave of dead formats. It was kind of an interesting experiment, but I think that player engagement with the format is so low now online that it doesn't really serve any purpose, and really the only purpose that it's actually achieving is to bifurcate the two different Commander populations and kind of eat away at both of them to the point where a lot of people don't even bother to play Commander online anymore because it's too confusing, and it's gotten very hard to get a game in either format. So I think that just restoring it back to its original splendor might be the best choice at this point. That's what I've been advising. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just have regular Commander format again, which uses the multiplayer ban list, which I would love to see because that would allow me to play all my decks with all the cards and use Winter Orb again, which would make the Brea deck a hell of a lot better. But anyway, I've talked enough. Let's get to the game. I've got Omnath here. I found this deck to be pretty solid in 1v1. It's definitely not tier 1, mainly because you're just so screwed by the spot removal that a lot of the decks play. And if there's one deck that packs a hell of a lot of spot removal, it's Kess. This deck tends to be extremely boring and linear. I have a 1v1 Kess deck built that's extremely effective, but I just hate the way the deck plays out. It's so mindless. You basically just kill their first few things, blow up a few artifacts, counterspell a few things, play Kess, and you just ride the card advantage of the Commander to victory. And the fact that it's a 3/4 body for 3/4 flying body for 4 mana, it's just a totally broken, dumb Commander in 1v1. I think it's absolutely number one ban tier candidate if they were to bother to continue with this format any longer. Some people point at Brea also as a big problem, but I think Kess is just more oppressive and more ridiculous. There's a few other mono blue commanders. Jace is still around, Teferi. There's definitely some top tier candidates, but I think Kess, among all of them, is the most obnoxious and powerful. And there was a tournament that was held, I think the last big 200-plus person tournament that I looked at for this format online. God, the amount of Kess decks at the top was absurd. It was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 decks in the top 15 were Kess decks. It might have even been more than that, but clearly it's the number one Commander. But I just don't think that they're going to bother to ban anything. I think the format's going to just be dead soon. So here we go. Mad Hatter goes first. I have a hand that's right on the borderline keepable. I do have a Mox Diamond with only 2 land, but if I draw another land here, this hand turns really good because I can keep the Cradle around. I really don't want to have to throw the Cradle away to the Mox Diamond, although I would do that in order to play Omnath if necessary. I'm just hoping to draw a few lands. Hope he doesn't have much early, and he's got just a Nile Spellbomb. All right, come on, deck. Draw a creature or land. Either one would be great. Primal Command. Well, that's neither. So I'm just going to play my basic forest here and cast a Skull Clamp. Hold on to the diamond. No reason to play it early. Underground River. All right, well, he has counter magic available. Come on, I need to draw land. Drawing a 1-drop wouldn't be the worst thing either, because I could actually just clamp it immediately. And there is a 1-drop right on schedule. But because the 1-drop feeds the Cradle, I decide that I'm going... He doesn't have any red mana yet. There's a reasonable possibility that he doesn't have red. And a lot of the deck's removal is red, so I feel that playing the Elf and playing the Cradle and keeping the diamond around for later makes more sense. And I gave some thought to clamping the Elf, because it would give me the ability to draw 2 cards, and that would give me a reasonable chance of getting a 3rd land. But this is killing a mana, so that's really like losing 2 mana to draw 2 cards, and I don't think that's worth it. So I'm just going to gamble that he doesn't have a way to kill the Elf. Now Spellbomb, he draws extra card. Thoughtseize. All right, well, that's not the end of the world. If I were him, I would probably take either Thran Dynamo or Lightning Greaves. These big, expensive green spells are more late game. But I think subscribing to the philosophy of take the cards that your opponent can cast rather than ones that they may be able to cast later, Lightning Greaves is probably number 1 choice. This card is a huge pain in the ass for Kess to deal with because it has so much spot removal. And sure enough, Mad Hatter does take the right card. And now he's got red mana, which is quite troubling. If I were him, if I had any red mana, I would just burn this Elf away instantly before I could clamp it, or before I could use it to make 2 mana effectively. Wall of Roots, that is a hell of a draw, not only because it's another creature under the Cradle, but also because it's very resilient. That 5 toughness is really handy, and I can even clamp it away later on to draw 2. So I'm extremely happy to see that. And now I've got 2 mana out of the Cradle, and that's enough mana to play my Omnath. I'll put Omnath into play. And then at the end of the turn, he reveals an Abrade. And man, if he had just burned the Elf away, as I would have done, certainly in his position, I would have killed that Elf in a millisecond. Then I would have had nothing but an uncastable Wall of Roots in a single forest, and I would have been red on the edge of scooping. So I think it was a big mistake by him to let me untap with that Elf out. Now he's got 4 mana, enough mana to play frickin' Kess. And instead of playing Kess, he plays something just as awful, Chandra, Torch of Defiance, and again makes another mistake here. In my opinion, he kills the Elf over the Wall of Roots. Now, the Wall of Roots is making 2 mana a turn, just like the Llanowar Elf, but it's way more resilient to removal than the Elf is, particularly because Abrade can kill off a 1/1 easily if he replays it off Kess. I guess this can't attack, so if he kills the wall, yeah, that's a fair point, actually. If he kills the wall, then the Elf can just attack into Chandra, and I can clamp it also, so that must have been his thinking. The Wall of Roots cannot attack. I do top deck a land here, and I decide that it's probably better to just hang on to the Mox Diamond for later when I actually draw a bunch of cards, perhaps, and can play 2 mana in a turn. I don't really want to take the risk of also having my Mox Diamond destroyed by a Braid, so I'm going to just use a regular land. And I actually get it, after some thought, I decide I'm going to get Dryad Arbor, because doing that allows me to first put out the Thran Dynamo and then clamp away the Arbor with the Skull Clamp, because I need cards right now. And that allows me to clamp up the wall, too, in case he has removal for it. So back to his turn. I'm really, really concerned by what he can do here. I mean, he has enough mana to basically use Chandra and play Kess and use Abrade to blow up Thran Dynamo. It's 6 mana total. There's nothing I can do to stop him from doing that. So he's got a mana floating. And there's the Abrade. And God, man, why the hell is the Abrade Skull Clamp over a Thran Dynamo? That's just crazy. I can't believe he did that. That's completely nuts. I would never, ever in a million years let my opponent's mono green deck have a Thran Dynamo out. I thought it was completely screwed, honestly, when he went to cast the Abrade, and then when I saw the target that he was picking with it, I couldn't believe it. So definitely, even when you're heavily outdrawn by your opponent, they always have an opportunity if they just make mistakes. But you can just see, this is such a lopsided match, in my opinion, in Kess's favor. It's so hard for mono green to really get a foothold in the game between all this spot removal and artifact kill that gets doubled up by the commander. It's just too much good stuff. So I'm just kind of grasping at straws here. And I'm going to just play Omnath again and hope for the best. I mean, I got to just hope he doesn't have any removal for Omnath at all, and then I'm able to ramp it up to the point where I can threaten the Chandra. Because if Chandra gets another counter on it and is able to deal 4 damage to something, it's probably going to put me out of the game. Plus the fact that this thing draws cards and makes mana, it's just really vicious. He's got Thoughtseize, great. All right, buy Terastodon. I don't think that's the correct play either. And he's got Inquisition. Yeah, so he Thought Scours himself, and he has Inquisition of Kozilek, which I expect he just drew, and that allows him to take the Genesis wave. So let's see here. Why did he take Terastodon? I have no mana currently floating. That's 1, 2. And I untap 3, 4, 5, 8. Yeah, okay. Well, it's very reasonable to use Thoughtseize to take out Terastodon, because Terastodon kills Chandra and 2 of his lands, so it's pretty vicious. So I just lost 2 really, really good spells in my hand from his double removal. And I guess he saw my hand, so he knew that he didn't need to cast the Thoughtseize twice. He wasn't particularly worried about Greater Good for some reason. So then he uses Chandra Torch of Defiance, and he flips over Treasure Cruise, and fortunately does not have quite enough cards to cast it. This is 5, 6, 7. He's 1 mana short of being able to cast the Treasure Cruise and draw 3 cards for free. So instead he plays Search for Azcanta, another awesome card right now. And keeping his Kess back, I guess, to block. Seems a little strange to me. I guess he really wants to protect the Chandra. You'll notice I added a mana in my mana pool at the end of his turn with the Wall of Roots, so now I've got 2, and that makes Omnath a 3/3. And Omnath's actually quite threatening, and he decides that his Kess is not as valuable as his Chandra Torch Defiance. And I kind of agree with that right now, actually, given how weak his graveyard is. He's got to kind of rely on Search for Azcanta to deliver something good. So he's jumping here. And this is not a bad block either, because by blocking with a 3-power creature, it means that Omnath taking 3 damage certainly shuts down the range of things that I can play on my turn without making my own Omnath die. I've done that so many times, more times than I'd like to admit, where Omnath takes some damage and then I tap some mana, like in a situation like this where I have a Thran Dynamo available and I just like cast Greater Good or something without adding more mana to my mana pool, and then Omnath just dies because it's taken 3 damage and it shrinks to a 3/3 or smaller. You feel stupid. But in this case, I was smart, and I've learned my lesson. I tap my Thran Dynamo first, tap the Elf, sack my Wall of Roots, down comes Greater Good, and I'm going to draw 7 off this Omnath with 7 mana floating in my pool. Remember when I said I was going to hang on to that diamond? This is why. So now I can play 2 mana in a turn, which is really wonderful. I got to discard 3, and certainly I'll throw away 1 land. I think the Fauna Shaman and probably the Carpet of Flowers, not very useful when my opponent only has 1 land in play. Yeah, sure enough. Oh, I did throw away the diamond. Okay, that's reasonable. I mean, I guess I've got plenty of mana regardless. So Carpet, Diamond, Forest is what I elected to keep because the rest of the hand is pretty good. So I've got 9 mana. And yeah, that's right. I have enough mana to cast Woodfall Primus. That handles the Chandra Torch of Defiance problem. And I can immediately sack the Woodfall Primus. This is one of the cards that's really on the bubble for cards to remove from the deck, but it's situations like this that just make it amazing. When you're able to play it, sack it, draw a million cards off of it, and then immediately use the Persist property to kill another permanent. Killing 2 things is just nuts. So I sack it, draw 6, Persist, and I could draw 5 more cards off of it. Pretty disgusting. That gets rid of both the Chandra and the Search for Azcanta, stranding him with only 2 cards in hand. I get a bunch more good stuff here. I'm going to throw away just some more mana. And I threw away Skyshroud Claim Forest, Fauna Shaman, play the Chrome Mox. Yeah, I was thinking. I think I miscounted there. I was planning on casting the Nature or the Nature's Lore, and then I realized that I had to suspend it because the rest of my hand was too good. But this is still so solid. Tons of mana now. Way more cards in my hand. The ability to draw 5 more if necessary, and I've got at least 1 card that I can trivially throw away. And I've got the opportunity to have Kozilek come down next turn, and he's only down to 2 cards in hand. So it goes back to his turn. He plays Izzet Charm. This is clearly desperation play when you're drawing 2 and discarding 2 without even having Kess. He casts Sleight of Hand, taking some damage, plays a land, and he Ghost Quarters away my Cradle. And I think at this point the replay is going to get stuck. But it's all academic anyway. You can see on the right side there. Yeah, it finally allows me to maybe select the land. At some point in time, you can see time eating away on the clock right now. It's 16:36. Now it's 16:26. Anyway, it didn't obviously take me this long to fetch a forest. But on my following turn, I think I played Garrick and Birthing Pod. And I think my opponent scooped a Birthing Pod when he realized just how completely screwed he was. because I was going to go Birthing Pot away, Woodfall Primus, to go get Void Winnower. And Void Winnower shuts down pretty much all of this guy's deck, given the fact that his Kess is an even casting cost thing, and there's no way for him to replay it. And he's scooped up the game. You can see it on the right side. So anyway, I thought this one might make a pretty nice introductory game to start the replay chain once again. Sorry it didn't work out at the end, but you got a good taste of Omnath in 1v1 flavor and all the crazy things it can do to come back against these incremental spot removal value decks by just doing big, green, and flashy things. I've got a bunch more replays that I need to get out there before they get dropped off due to expiration. So look forward to those coming soon. Good to be back, guys. See you soon.